Hello and welcome to Week 1 Saturday review. I'm making this currently Sunday. It's like noon right now. So with that being said, I'm going to just leave the LSU and Florida State game for an entirely separate video because I feel like that one will just be very, very important. It should literally just be discussed in its own video, as well as I need to pump this out as early as I can because I will not have the time later. So, with that also being said, I will try my darndest to watch the FSU LSU game as much as I can, but I can't guarantee that I will be able to watch the whole game. I might not even be able to watch it at all. So, yeah, that is that about that game, which kind of sucks because I was really, really hyped up about this game. And yeah, let's get straight into this Saturday review. All right, so first off, I have a lot of predictions in here from week 1, but I only did top 25 teams. I didn't do any unranked ones or like games that consisted of top 25 teams. So I added some games that I felt like were pretty important. So first of all, my prediction for this game was 17-42. I didn't watch this. I wasn't even able to. It wasn't on anything that I could watch. Final score turned out to be 3-30. I didn't even know Jim Harbaugh was suspended for some recruiting violations or something. I don't know. But yeah, Michigan takes care of business. Almost shuts him out, but not quite. So yeah. Virginia at Tennessee, a fantastic prediction by me. I was only off by 3 points. I literally missed the mark by a field goal. Tennessee absolutely takes care of business, destroys Virginia. That was very well expected, especially at Tennessee. Very expected. Nothing to be said there. Final score is 13-49. Tennessee destroys. So I'm not even going to talk about this one. That was my prediction, 27-45. But the final score is 45-42. I'm not going to talk about this one because I already talked about it in another video. It's literally the most obvious thumbnail. Just go. If you want to talk about that, then it's there. I'm going to skip over that. And now we run into my first big question mark. And there's a couple teams that did this. A few, actually. So the final score, I predicted this game would be 7-49. I just felt like Oklahoma would take care. They did more than take care. They dropped 73 on Arkansas State, which I'm kind of like, what? Like, why are they putting 73 points down on a Pee-wee school? It's not like they stopped either. It's not like they put in the second strings or whatever. I mean, I don't really know what happened. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel second quarter. I don't know. And if you look at the score, they scored 28 points in the first quarter, 17 in the second quarter, and 21 in the third quarter, and 7 in the fourth quarter. So it's not like they really stopped. They didn't really stop scoring. But I don't know if that's the second strings or whatnot. But still, nonetheless, to me, it looks like they were just running up the score on this team. I'm not too sure what to think about it. Oklahoma had 642 total yards. Arkansas State had 280 or 208. So, with that being said, I'm just looking at this like 73-0 feels like, I don't know, you're just kind of running it up. I feel like it's very difficult to get in the 70s just on your own. Like, normally Arkansas State didn't score a point. When the score is 49 or 45-0, normally you just start running the ball, start running the clock out. Don't absolutely annihilate. I get there's the argument of reps and stuff like that, but really reps from 45 to 73 points is nice, dude. Arkansas State got embarrassed, humiliated even, and I feel bad for them because we all knew they didn't stand a chance, but they just socked them right in the face with it. So yeah, that's only the first of those teams to do that. Here's a game that definitely posed a fat question mark for Hawkeyes football. Now, I'm not going to hate on this Utah State team. They've been all right for a while. They did good in this game against the Hawkeyes defense. They had overall more yards. They had 329 yards, 213 through the air, 116 through the ground. They had 10 penalties and 1 turnover as a pick. They were 1 for 3 on fourth down efficiency and 5 for 17 on third down efficiency. And they were 32 for 48 on completions. So my prediction was Iowa would not do extraordinary on the offense, but they would definitely step it up with a new quarterback, Cade. I don't know how to say his name, Cade McNamara or something like that. Let's see if my phone could load. Cade McNamara, I think, is something like that. We'll just call him Cade. Cade, I was like, well, this guy could do stuff. I've heard a lot of good things about this quarterback, and you know what? They say he's a leader. They say he's good. He'll put up some points, most likely. Well, that didn't end up happening. In fact, Utah ended up scoring more points on this Hawkeyes defense than I expected them to. Now, I'm not going to hate on this Utah State team for 1 second. I mean, listen, the Mountain West is very, in my opinion, very close to being a Power 5 conference right now. With the loss of the Pac-12, obviously there's the AAC, but even then, I still think the AAC now, if you subtract Tulane, is weaker than the Mountain West. The Mountain West consists of teams like Fresno State, Boise State, San Jose State, San Diego State. Like, there's a lot of recognizable teams. Utah State, literally. Like, there's a lot of recognizable names or teams that have become more known recently. There's a lot of recognizable names in there. I would say that this team is pretty close to being a Power 5 conference, especially with the potential to add Oregon State and Washington State or whatever is going on in that situation. So, with that being said, this final score I'm like going to fight for it, but I'm also not going to fight for it because what we all needed to see for this Iowa team to be ranked was an offense, and that wasn't necessarily there. They ended up providing us with worse overall offensive stats than Utah State, except for the penalties and the turnovers. Iowa didn't turn over the ball. Iowa had 3 less penalties than Utah State. So, with that being said, this still remains a question mark for me in what Iowa can do in the future. Because still, nonetheless, Mountain West, I will respect it. I will fight for it. But Iowa is supposed to always have a very good defense. That's what they're known for. And they allowed 14 points by a Mountain West school. So, there's still a big fat question mark for the Hawkeyes that I'm going to leave unanswered. Sorry for the mic noise. This thing literally just is the worst. I don't know why it has to make so much noise if I touch it. Next game. So here's our second team. Here's our second team that I'm like, wow, guys, really? So, my prediction for this game would be 0-49. Ole Miss would shut him out and, after a certain point, kind of quiet down. No, another team that just runs up the score to 73. I'm like, guys, why? Now, the difference is they didn't shut him out. Mercer would score a touchdown to keep the game tied early in the first quarter, a 75-yard run. I don't know what happened there. But basically, Jason Dart would throw 18 for 23, 334 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Ole Miss scores 73 points. But again, same situation like what was their face? Oklahoma. They're Jason Dart or Jackson Dart? I thought it was Jason Dart. Look at that. It's literally Jackson Dart, unless the X is silent or something. In the third quarter, Jackson Dart is still in the game, but not only that, who did they put in to their quote-unquote reserves? Who did they put in? They put in Spencer Sanders. They put in Spencer Sanders to play the game, who ends up just running up the score even more in the third quarter. And then they scored 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So I'm just looking at these teams. Yes, it's like, yeah, let's get our reserves in for reps and stuff like that. Guys, it's Mercer. Like, you should be doing that in the second quarter. You're up 21. You're up 28-7 at the end of the first quarter. You don't think you could throw in your reserves then? Like, come on, get everybody reps now. Don't do it way late in the third quarter when all your first strings are finally tired and whatnot. Like, I just feel like it is an excuse. Like, it's a big fat excuse. And they're running up the score to make themselves look good. And ultimately, it's giving me the idea in my head that these teams might be frauds. I don't know why you would run up the score against such a bad team into extraordinary numbers when we already know you're a good team. It's like, question mark. Another team, ha ha ha. The worst of them all. The worst of them all of the running up. Oregon, I said they would do 7-59. I got Portland State's score right, but my oh my, 81 points? Guys, come on, man. Another situation where it's just like 22 points in the first quarter, 28 points in the second quarter. You're going into the halftime up 50-7. You think, right, they would get rid of their starters going into the third quarter. No. Bo Nix throws a touchdown early in the third quarter. Then it looks like they pull them out and start putting in their second strings and whatnot. But they still score 4 more touchdowns. Or, no, 3 more touchdowns and a field goal. It's just, to me, it's like, yes, these could be the reserves doing work and whatnot, but at the same time, like, you're up 50-7 going into the half. Don't you think when it's 29-7 in the start of the second quarter, you could put in your second strings and whatnot? Like, I feel like they're just running up the score. I feel like it's fake. And fraudulent. And they're like, if a team like Oregon loses or something, a bad game, they'll be like, oh, well, we killed Portland State or something. I don't know. It's to get the attention on them and whatnot. I am not for it. I'm a little disappointed, and I feel like it's just shitty to the smaller schools because Portland State doesn't stand a chance. Mercer doesn't stand a chance, but you're putting 81 points down on them. It's like, all right, guys, yeah, whatever. Another game that I already talked about in another video, my prediction was 52-14. Turns out it was 23-3. We already talked about that. You can look at my channel. Very obvious thumbnail. I think it's called Ohio State has some explaining to do. So, yeah. Boise State at Washington. My prediction was 27-52. I said I wouldn't sleep on Boise State. I didn't sleep on Boise State. I mean, they weren't as close as I thought they would be. But Michael Penix Jr., man, he's got the offense of a million dreams. I mean, he was missing some deep passes as well, man. Like, obviously, it's hard to be just all the time perfect, but he was missing some deep passes. Dude, he had every opportunity to throw the deep ball. He's got some wide receivers, man. Unbelievable. This Washington team is so good. I mean, they're just so good. They always had somebody down the field deep. Boise State, quite frankly, didn't stand a chance. Boise State even got, I would say, lucky. Washington State almost put a safety down on them, so, like, they were even getting out of some points and whatnot. But, yeah, Rice at Texas. This was a sketchy game going into the second half. Texas was only up 16-3. A 13-point game against a school like Rice. If I notice anything, it would be Texas's defense that stepped up. My prediction would be 10-49. Final score is 10-37. I was pretty damn close. But yeah, if anything, I noticed Texas's defense. They've got quite the defense. Again, it's against Rice, but they've got quite a defense. We're just gonna start flying through these. Tennessee State University at Notre Dame. That was my prediction. This was the final score. Whatever. All right, this game I said would be close. I said, you know what? Some of these schools like to struggle against smaller schools. Wisconsin will do that. That'll be the team I choose. And I would definitely, I mean, they didn't struggle, it looks like, but they definitely never felt comfortable. Here's why. Going into halftime, they were only up 10-14. They pulled away, made it 31-10. But again, Buffalo would score a touchdown, making it 31-17. with 7 minutes left. That's still a good old 14-point game with 7 minutes and 43 seconds left. In my eyes, it just didn't look like Wisconsin ever felt satisfied. But here's a big takeaway. Mordecai, funny last name, Tanner Mordecai, was 24 for 31. That's pretty good. 189 yards, that's not that good. A touchdown and 2 interceptions against Buffalo. 2 interceptions against Buffalo, man. They were 4 for 12 on third down efficiency. They had 500 yards. Here's the crazy stat. So they had 189 over the air, 2 interceptions thrown, but they rushed for 314 yards. They had 3 penalties, and ultimately, Buffalo had 316 yards, 194 through the air, 122 on the ground, 6 penalties and no turnovers. That's why they were even in this game. So if anything, it looks like Wisconsin's defense just clamped down on this team. I lost my spot because I opened up the stats and backed out. Yeah. So that was what my reasoning was, and whatever. UT Martin? Is that their name? I don't remember what I was calling him yesterday, but I was definitely not calling him that. UT Martin at Georgia. Let's just say I was kind of surprised by Georgia. Georgia ended up shutting him out. I said it would be 52-0. They didn't shut him out, but they killed him. But going into the second half, Georgia was only up 17-0 on this team. And there were multiple times where this UT Martin team was literally on, like, the goal line, and they just didn't score because they're a shitty bad school. But, like, I was like, wow, this first half is wow. Finally, they decided to pick it up. The third quarter, they just whatever. But you know what? They scored They scored 1 more touchdown in the fourth quarter. Then they kicked a field goal. Don't blame them. Then they got a pick 6. Don't blame them. That's not running up the score, in my opinion. That was them running down the clock and just not purposely going down to make the other team look bad and whatnot. So Georgia took care of business. I would just like to point out that they were a little sketchy in the first half. Nevada at USC, another example of a team running up a score. All right, so in what world, when the score is 7-42, in what world do you need to score 24 points in the fourth quarter? All right, yes. One of those consisted of a fumble return. Don't blame him. Here was my prediction, by the way, 7-63. I was pretty damn close. But then Nevada scores a touchdown, and then a 47-yard touchdown run, a 71-yard pass from Miller Moss or whatever. Like, why are we passing the ball with 4 minutes left in the game in the first place? I mean, honestly, you're draining the clock. You're up 59, at the very minimum, you're up. I get they were running the ball, so yeah, you're up 59-14. Why do you need to pass the ball? I just don't understand. Caleb Williams had a fantastic game. Yes, it's against Nevada, but he still had a fantastic game. Only threw 24 passes, completed 18 of them for 319 yards and 5 touchdowns. Within 24 passes, 18 completions, he threw 5 touchdowns. That's pretty solid stuff, but still, I just look at it like 24 points in the fourth quarter, like there's no purpose. I was pretty close to this one. I said they would shut him out, but they wouldn't do. Well, they did. They went in 45s. I just said a team would be out of the 45-point range because I was putting everybody in the 40-point range, so that was why I did that. I think I was off by 3 points on this game as well. Yeah, I was off by 3 points. Nothing much to be said here other than New Mexico is bad. Looking for the game. I said the final score would be 17-52. Final score was 7-56. I mean, again, just absolutely taking care of business. All right, West Virginia at Penn State, a game that I was kind of like a little stunned by. Why do all these teams struggle in the first halves of games? I mean, with 9 minutes and 10 seconds left, Nicholas Singleton runs in a run for a touchdown to make him go up 7-14. But no points were scored after that. This was my prediction, was 24-49. I said Penn State would handle it offensively. Final score is 15-38. So West Virginia would score a touchdown in the second quarter, But I was like, wow, dude, only 14 points in 2 quarters is like, wow. But they would pick it up definitely, mainly in the fourth quarter. They would run in a touchdown with 6 seconds left, so that's kind of like what? But nonetheless, it's not like it's running up the score because it would have been 31-15. In a form it is, but in a form it isn't, whatever. But still, that kind of struck me as odd. Their quarterback, what is his name? Drew Aller. Yeah, Drew Aller. Threw 29 passes, completed 21 of them, 325 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did great. Against West Virginia, who I'm not too high on, he did great. But still, their running back as well, 13 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown. They were great. K. Lambert Smith, 4 receptions, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did great. This Penn State team could be very, very, very good. I was just a little stunned by the fact that it was only 14-7 going into the second half. Made me question what was going on there. North Carolina versus South Carolina. A lot of people had South Carolina winning this game. Personally, I stood my ground and said North Carolina would win this one in overtime. I had faith in South Carolina. I thought they would be a good team. But, dude, North Carolina took care of business, man. Not only that, I think they had 9 sacks. Like, their defense was a team. They were stepping it up. So, ultimately, both teams did good on the offense. North Carolina just did so much better. Over the air, they had 269. On the ground, they had 168. Here's a fat stat that you guys are going to be stunned by. They had, South Carolina's stats, they had 351 total yards. 353 that came through the air. 353. If you notice, their total yards was 351. And their passing was 353. Yeah, because their rushing went for -2 yards. North Carolina clamped down on this team, as well as South Carolina was 0 for 4 on 4th downs, 4 for 14 on 3rd downs. Both teams were pretty split on penalties. North Carolina had 7, South Carolina had 6. But the difference is North Carolina threw two interceptions. South Carolina threw 0. That felt like it should have been flipped, if anything, knowing Spencer Rattler. But hey, Drake May throws what looks like, 2 interceptions. So ultimately, Spencer Rattler had a great game for himself. But yeah, I mean, just -2 rushing yards because of all those sacks is ridiculous. North Carolina takes care of business. Their defense was the star of the show. And yeah, South Alabama at Tulane. I saw some people picking South Alabama over this team. Personally, I did not agree. I was like, Tulane will double this team's score handily, and that's exactly what they did. Well, yeah, that's exactly what they did. They more than doubled this team's score. It was close. It was a close game throughout. It was, in the third quarter, it was 17-24. It was a pretty close game, but the rest of the game, it just looks like Tulane clamped down. Here's an impressive stat. Michael Pratt was 14 for 15 on his passes, 294 yards and 4 touchdowns in 14 completions. He threw for 294 yards and 4 touchdowns. And within that, he only managed to not complete 1 pass. That is outstanding stats for Tulane. That is ridiculous quarterback numbers. And I know a lot of people will say, it's against South Alabama. South Alabama was a good-ass team last year. They lost by 1 point to UCLA. They lost by, I think, 3 points to Troy. And then they got their ass kicked in their bowl game. But still, they finished off a 3-loss team with some very respectable losses. And I don't think they lost a whole lot going into this year. But, hey, I was not sleeping on the South Alabama team for 1 second, and Tulane took care of business. All right, so that was the last top 25 team that I had. And now we're going into the teams that I decided to add. So first off, UTSA at Houston. A lot of people were saying this UTSA team should be ranked. You know what? I thought so as well. Of course, just got a yawn. I thought so as well, and I would just like to say, man, I made that AP poll video, all pissed off about the teams that were ranked. Well, literally every team that I fought for, except for UCLA, lost in the first week of football. So I just look like an imbecile. I look like a stupid moron, but whatever. Just like to throw that out there. I'm aware of what happened. And Houston would win this game. Houston will win this game at Houston. Personally, I did not see this coming. I did not see this coming at all. I would also like to mention that Texas State lost to Baylor, but I made a separate video on that, so that's why I didn't include it in this one. But basically, UTSA would score a touchdown in the first quarter, but from that point on, they just didn't do anything. It was a very defensive matchup. UTSA quarterback split 50% on completions. He was 18 for 36, 209 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Not good stats for UTSA. Whereas the Houston quarterback was 22 for 34, 233 yards, and 2 touchdowns. No interceptions. So what looks like to me is UTSA is a pretty good team. Houston is not that good, but UTSA was just turning the ball over, making bad mistakes. They had 8 penalties, whereas Houston had 3. They were not in their aura. They were not in their mental. They made mistakes and ultimately cost them the game. Now they're down 0-1 to start the year. Big fat point out there because this team was receiving quite a few votes to be ranked. Cal at North Texas. I felt like I should include this one. This one was played way earlier in the day. However, I believe it's way up here. Yeah. Cal at North Texas. Or no, this is because I have Texas notifications on for some reason. Basically, going into what it looked like we were going to go into, or I didn't have a prediction, so that's the final score. It looks like we were going to go into the half 27-21 because they scored a touchdown with 147 seconds left. But Cal managed to rally down the field and score a touchdown. They go for 2 points and fail, and then they would just destroy North Texas in the second half. Touchdown, 2-point conversion, touchdown, field goal. They just shut this team out. Oh, I had a mistake on the final score. It was actually 58-21. So even more. I was really impressed by how Cal did. I thought the North Texas quarterback was Cal's quarterback. No, I was actually really surprised by how well Cal played today. They were 24. Well, in my predictions, I'm pretty sure I made it clear that Cal has a good offense. And so saying I'm surprised is an overstatement. I knew Cal had a good offense, but I didn't know they had this good of an offense. Yes, it's North Texas, but hey, it's on the road and whatnot. They showed that they can take care of business. I almost thought they were going to lose this game going into the season. I was having a hard time predicting Cal winning this game. But Finley, their quarterback, was 24 for 34, 279 yards, touchdown, and an interception. I'd say that is pretty bad quarterback stats, but nothing terrible. Here's the most impressive stat of the game is their running back, Jaden Ott. 20 carries, 188 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That is phenomenal stats. Overall, Cal had 669 yards of total offense. They were 9 for 18 on third down efficiency, 3 for 3 on fourth down efficiency, 1 interception, 1 fumble. They had 8 penalties, and they passed for 312 yards. They rushed for 357. So if they rushed for 357 and Jaden Ott he ran for 188 yards, that means a good old 170 other yards came from either the quarterback or other running backs. So Cal's got a running game. Cal can run the damn ball. And that showed 669 total yards of offense. It's fantastic. It looks like North Texas was just throwing interceptions. They had 3 picks. They were also 0 for 1 on fourth down efficiency. And ultimately, they had 225 yards of offense. So I just like to point that out. Cal impressed me today. They were looking sketchy, and I thought they were going down the script. They impressed me. They turned it around. Fresno State at Purdue, another game that I just felt like I should include. Personally, I'm pretty high on this Fresno State team. I think in my ASU prediction video, I literally have them beating us. But overall, I just think this Fresno State is good. A Fresno State team is good. I don't think I selected them over Purdue, though. I feel like opening the year at Purdue is very difficult to do. That showed last year with Penn State. Penn State struggled to beat this team, and this was not a good Purdue team. But Fresno State coming in here and winning, that's pretty impressive. Now, I know Purdue's not going to be a good team this year, and I believe a lot of people are aware of that, but still, that's a very impressive win for Fresno State. And Fresno State was down pretty much this whole game. Purdue scored 7, then Fresno State scored 7, then Purdue scored 7. So it goes 0-7, 7-7, 7-14, 14-14, 14-21, 17-21, 28, 17-28, 25-28, 32-28. Fresno State takes their first lead, but then Purdue hops in front, taking 32-35, leading with 59 seconds left. A 22-yard pass from their quarterback to give them a 39 to 35 lead. I actually love the 2-point conversion call in the third quarter. They're down 28-17. They go for that 2-point conversion to make it a 3-point game, but not only that, they end up scoring a touchdown anyways, and then the touchdown later makes it so it's not a 3-point game. That 2-point conversion call was just all the right thing to do, and it paid off because Purdue probably got into field goal range or something, but they had to score a touchdown. So I love that 2-point conversion call. Let's talk about the Fresno State quarterback, Mikey Keene, something like that. We'll call him Mikey. We'll just say Mikey. He was 31 for 44, 366 yards, and 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Fantastic for a quarterback. The interception kind of sucks, but that's fantastic for going on the road to Purdue, which probably had quite a few fans, as well as their running back had 20 carries for 93 yards. Very good. Very, very, very good by this Fresno State team. That was the only turnover of the game. They didn't go for a single fourth down. They were 11 for 17 on third down efficiency. They had 487 total yards of offense, 371 through the air, and 116 on the ground. Purdue had 363. They were 2 for 4 on fourth down. They were 3 for 12 on third down efficiency. They had no turnovers. They had 4 penalties, and they were 109 on the ground. So overall, Purdue was just getting it done when they needed to. Fresno State somehow wasn't able to punch on more points. I think it's probably the penalties and that turnover. They had 7 penalties versus Purdue's 4 and an interception. Overall, though, Fresno State controlled the clock. They had 36 minutes of possession, whereas Purdue only had 23. So fantastic game played by Fresno State, and my expectations have risen for this Fresno State team. And finally, the game I was going to make a video on separately, with the rest of my other 3 videos. I was going to make a video on this, but it was pretty late, and I just decided to go to bed. Overall, I was stunned. I was truly stunned and very disappointed by this Texas Tech team. Within the first quarter, at the end of the first quarter, Texas Tech leads 17-0, and then complete and utter silence from Texas Tech. Wyoming scores a field goal early in the second quarter, and then a touchdown also early in the second quarter. But then no points are scored from that point on. Then they would score a touchdown in this third quarter, and then they would score 3 early in the fourth quarter. No points are scored from Texas Tech in this time until 41 seconds left, where they kick a field goal. Going into overtime, Wyoming starts. They get a touchdown and field goal. Texas Tech gets the ball. They get a touchdown and a field goal. Texas Tech gets the ball back. They get a touchdown, but now it's the 2-point conversion rule, and they fail it. And then Wyoming scores a touchdown, and they get it. Texas Tech, man. Their quarterback looked like he played great. 31 for 47, 338 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. But it looks like their rush game just sucked. Their guy, 11 carries, 39 yards, and a touchdown. Overall, I just don't know how you just get destroyed offensively like this, or I guess defensively. Not only that, though, Texas Tech kind of got obliterated by penalties. They had 7 versus Wyoming's 3. But overall, they got more turnovers. Texas Tech threw that interception, but Wyoming fumbled the ball twice. Texas Tech had a whole 110 more yards than them. Fourth down efficiency, both teams were 2 for 2. Texas Tech was 7 for 17 on third down. Wyoming was 6 for 15. They were very, very split in this game, but ultimately they were very, very split in this game, which I'm not going to use as that. I'm going to use that against Texas Tech because this team was supposed to be in the top 25. I think way early on they were ranked number 20, and then they just fell off down to like number 27 or something like that, just to lose to Wyoming. Now again, these what are they called? These Mountain West teams. I will not hate on them, but still, their quarterback had nothing close to a good game. He was 18 for 34 on over the air. 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's pretty relatively bad stats for a quarterback. It's the running game. They had 171 yards on the ground, which is just like, how do you allow that? Their running back didn't even destroy him. It was the quarterback, actually. So the quarterback had a great game. He actually looks like a rusher. He had 15 carries, 68 yards, and a touchdown. So that's probably what it was. It was dual threat capabilities. But still, disappointed by Texas Tech's performance. I just can't believe they lost it. I was so high on this team. My Big 12 prediction, I had TCU going to the Big 12 championship and losing it to Texas, but that was before I didn't know Max Duggan got drafted. So I was like, hey, you know what? My substitute will be Texas Tech. Texas Tech will be going to the Big 12 and then they lose to Wyoming. That doesn't mean they won't. I mean, they're still unaffected by conference play still, but this is just a terrible, terrible, terrible look. Final score, 33-35. And that's the last game of Saturday before we move on to Sunday. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for the views on the most recent videos. It's pretty cool. A like, gotta burp. A like would help. A subscribe would very well help. A comment is just nice. And that's all for me. Adios.